What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. This is our week three NASCAR preview going into COTA. If you don't know what COTA stands for, it stands for Course of the Americas. It is the first road course this season, and it is in Austin, Texas. Uh, Hopefully, everybody is enjoying the NASCAR episodes. These ones are usually a little bit shorter, just the week to week previews, as this one probably will be. I do have some other episodes planned, but I'm waiting. For example, I have an NHL episode that I want to do, but I'm waiting until after the trade deadline to see some of the things that happen there. Definitely a March Madness episode. Wouldn't feel right not doing one of those. And we'll see. Maybe I have another NBA episode in me. Maybe I don't. You guys let me know. Or at least before the playoffs, everybody will get a playoff episode, but let me know if you want to see another NBA episode before the playoffs with everything else going on. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here are some storylines going in the COTA. After last week's race, is Atlanta officially the best drafting track in NASCAR? It very well could be. I will say the last 2 to 3 years, it certainly has felt like Atlanta is putting on the best racing, and it feels like a lot of the complaints that people have about Daytona and Talladega are not happening at Atlanta. And maybe it's rose-colored glasses because it just happened. It always is providing a good finish, and just some of like things like that. Atlanta to me really seems like if you like drafting tracks and you like to see the skill of drafting tracks, it certainly seems like Atlanta is that track right now. There's definitely a conversation between the three manufacturers. Do we want some of them want more speed, some of them want more handling, even if it means slowing the car down? That was interesting, and then you got to see sometimes the cars and groups would get out and break away from the rest of the pack. You would see people be able to make up a lot of positions very quickly using the draft. You didn't see as much, I think, lapses in judgment or skill issue wrecks. You saw, a normal amount of wrecks, I think, but all in all, I think Atlanta, a lot of what people have been clamoring for on drafting tracks and at the two big super speedways is happening at Atlanta. And I think right now, I don't think it's unfair to call it the best drafting track for that reason. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does COTA count as another wild card race? We've had, drafting tracks, super speedways. They are always looked at as wild card races because everybody's super close running together. You can kind of sit in the draft. Can you avoid the big wrecks that happen in drafting tracks? And if, it's people use the phrase luck, right? I think road racing requires an amount of skill, just like drafting does. And I don't want to say it's wild card. I think in previous years it would be much more of a wild card, but I think with how many road courses have been on the schedule for the last couple years for a while, a lot of the drivers are getting used to having to maybe not even getting used, but they've kind of been forced to get better at road courses. And I would say there's 10 to 15 guys that are good on road courses. Maybe it's like a first tier and a second tier, but there's still enough drivers, I think, that have become good at road course racing. And a lot of the younger drivers are just kind of growing up with it, I think, where it's not too much of a wild card and it takes skill. Now, there is going to be some people that maybe aren't contenders on a lot of other courses or aren't as strong of a contenders on other courses that are strong contenders on road courses. But then some of the best drivers in the sport and some of the championship contenders are also good on road courses. In some ways, I think it's road courses still count as a wild card race. I don't know if that's ever going to go away partially because the history and partially because it's just in some ways not what NASCAR is known for. But I I think it's not as much of a crapshoot as it used to be, and I think there has been some good racing on road courses. Hopefully, this year isn't like last year with all the crap that happened at COTA. If we get a green white checkered, let's hope that we don't keep having guys send it 18 wide causing wrecks. I will be interested to see if that happens, how that pans out. I want to see with the manufacturers, right? There's always a manufacturer battle at tracks. It felt like even with a little bit of success, Ford was still kind of slow at didn't have the consistent speed that Toyota and Chevy had. Chevy has felt like in the next gen, I would say, has felt like the best road course manufacturer, but maybe that's because they have the best drivers. I think they have the majority of the best road course drivers, not all of them, but the majority. So I'm interested to see if the manufacturers have made any changes, what changes they could have made, stuff like that. And see if there's a change in from previous years. What can COTA tell us about the rest of the season? Well, because of some of the drivers who may not be as strong on ovals that are stronger on road courses, maybe there's somebody that's stealing a playoff spot, and we'll have to look out for that the rest of the year. But there is a lot of road courses, and there's road courses in the playoffs, right? So it can tell us who, at least early on, is strong on road courses, what manufacturers, what teams, what drivers are good on the road courses, and are going to be seeing success there for the rest of the year, and what drivers need to figure it out if they want to be competitive on these tracks. And most importantly, the most one of the oldest ran road courses, I'd say the third most populous road course in NASCAR in terms of races run, the Charlotte Roval, very famous playoff race. You probably want to be pretty good there. So this can be some early signs of maybe you're finding it or maybe you're not finding it and need to change courses. And this is a debate I've been seeing a little bit, and I understand where it comes from. Is it bad to start the season with 2 drafting tracks in a road course? So drafting tracks, you only have 6 drafting tracks all season in a 38 season race, and you use 2 of them your first 2 races. And there's only 6 road courses now in NASCAR, 6 or 7. And you're using one up, right? So those are your 2 rarest types of track. Your most common type of tracks are those intermediate ovals, right? And you don't have your most popular type of track, your most common type of track, you're not having in your first 3 races of the season. So I have 2 questions. Is that a bad thing because it's you're essentially half of your wild card races that could be anybody, or half of your races where a lot more cars than normal feel like they can win are the first 3 races. So does that mean you're going to have a dry spell through a part of the season? And B, new fans, right? It's important to draw new fans, and I think drafting tracks are interesting for that because there's not a whole lot of that in other sports. And road course races, there's a lot of famous road course racing series around the world, so maybe you're trying to bring in fans, but could you be giving them a false sense of what NASCAR is? Really, that intermediate track is the bread and butter of NASCAR. Should you be showing off your bread and butter in the first 3 races? I think there's a fair argument for that, but can we really know? NASCAR's never tried a beginning of the season with these types of tracks in this order to start the season. Maybe it will have really good results, but the only way to know is time will tell. In some ways, I think it's a bad thing, and in some ways, I'm willing to hold off and say let's wait and see what the end result is, because you don't know until the end comes, right? Let me know. That's another thing. Let me know your opinions in the comments. Just like for question storyline number 1, let me know how you feel about question number 6 in the comments. Tell me if you agree, or tell me your opinion, or tell me if you think I didn't talk about an aspect of it. History at COTA. This isn't as long as it was for Atlanta. We've only run 4 races there. Chase Elliott in 2021, I felt like at that point in time, Chase Elliott was still kind of the most consistent and clearly best road course racer in NASCAR. And then I think 2022, 2023, as more road courses are getting added, it kind of balanced out. He's still one of the better ones, but you can see Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron. That's 3 Chevys and a Toyota. No Ford has ever won at COTA. Will that happen this week? I don't know about that. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Best average finish, Ross Chastain, a 4, Alex Bowman, a 4.3. Those have been your 2 best and most consistent. We all remember Ross Chastain's 2022 win when Alex Bowman is one of the guys who got shoved by Chastain out of the way for the win. And Bowman, I would say, is the hottest driver coming in. Over the last 3 races, he has 3 top 5s with a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Could this finally be the year he gets in victory lane? I don't know. Tyler Reddick is also a winner at COTA. Average finish of 5th. Ty Gibbs, only 2 races. A lot of these other guys have 4 races. Ty Gibbs only has 2 races, but he has had an average finish of 6th. Chase Elliott, average finish of 7th, also a previous winner. We all know his road course prowess. Keep in mind, he only has 3 races because he missed a race with injury. And then another guy I wanted to mention that's not in the top 5 average finishes, William Byron, the other winner. I think he's 7.6, or he's has an average finish better than 8. And then the next closest people are 4. So if you take this list of 5 and add William Byron, those are kind of been your consistently best 6, and they've been a little bit better than the rest of the field, at least at COTA. Maybe not in road course racing in general, but at least at COTA. So keep that in mind this week. Favorites to win. My favorites. These are not the betting favorites. I disagree. I think with a little bit of the betting favorites, but these are the betting favorites to win. Well, in terms of driver rankings, the team rankings is something I like to add because sometimes teams are good at track, better at some tracks than others. I have Hendrick as the best team here. They're the only race team with multiple wins at the cup level on this track with Byron and Elliott. And Bowman has been arguably the best driver at COTA over the course of his career. So there you go. And don't forget, Kyle Larson is a good road racer as well. So I think Hendrick, if you could only pick one team, I think Hendrick Motorsports is the team you have to pick to win this week. Trackhouse is really good. Ross Chastain has a win. And they have two guys who have never raced on COTA but are getting a lot of love and are both very high in the betting odds, and Shane Van Gisbergen and somebody making their first Cup Series start, a young fellow with a lot of hype, Connor Zilic. We'll see. That's why I have Trackhouse second. They're a little bit more unknown. Hendrick is a proven commodity, but Trackhouse definitely has some good odds to win. Joe Gibbs Racing, if you look at the driver rankings, you'll see I really don't have too many JGR guys put very high. But I still think that they bring a good road course product. I just looking at average driver rankings or where they average finish at COTA is and the road course history. Somebody like Denny Hamlin is good. Kyle Busch was fast at COTA for Joe Gibbs, but he's not there anymore. But Denny Hamlin is a decent road course racer. Martin Truex wasn't. Can Chase Briscoe continue that? Right. There's some good drivers at Joe Gibbs that I think can find victory lane. I just am unsure about them right now, but I don't think it's right to drop Joe Gibbs. They're a really good team. And like I said, just because I don't have them high up here doesn't mean I don't think it's unlikely that they win. Team Penske, Ford, if they're going to get their first one on a road course, I think it's going to come from a Team Penske car. Most likely Austin Cindric or Ryan Blaney. I don't think Logano is quite on those guys' level. I don't know if I still think Ford is a little bit lacking on road courses in next gen, but Cindric is a great road course racer. Blaney always seems to find his way towards the front of the field. If any Ford's going to do it, it's them. And 23XI, I wanted to put higher, but I don't really trust Riley Herbst. This is his first Cup Series road course race in a sense. Tyler Reddick obviously has won, and that's really high, but then Bubba hasn't done well at COTA and in any of the trips there. So it's kind of like a one-car horse you're hoping to do well. So 23XI I would put higher if they just had somebody who was okay or decent at road course racing, but with one car, it's a little bit hard for me to put them high up on the list here. Driver rankings, Shane Van Gisbergen, obviously, right, has a Cup Series road course race. He's never been a full-time team. He's a full-time team now, which I think helps him. It has some continuity. They know, and when you have a full-time team, they're solely focused. You have that team of people solely focused on making sure that car's right for you. I think Shane Van Gisbergen, with his experience and road course racing prowess, I think he's got to be the favorite to win. Then I have Alex Bowman, somebody who's routinely finished very well at COTA, finished in the top 10 in all of his races there, 3 top 5s out of the 4 races. I expect to see Alex Bowman to continue to do well in this race. Tyler Reddick, a former winner, another guy with a great average finish. He's becoming an even better road course racer. Toyota seems like they have a pretty good road course program. I look forward to seeing Reddick at the front. And then Byron. Chevy has been the best road course racing manufacturer in NASCAR since the next gen. William Byron is hot. He's won at COTA before. He's won road course races before. I feel like he's getting better every year. William Byron, for Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott are kind of tied for me, both previous winners here. Chastain usually does okay on road courses. Ross Chastain has a better average finish at COTA than Elliott. Chase Elliott, though, has a little bit more backing on road courses. I kind of see these guys almost as a tie for 5th. If you made me choose, I chose Chastain because he has a more recent win here. But I digress. I'm picking those are 5 and 6. Definitely think those guys have top 10 good runs. AJ Allmendinger, a longtime road course ace in the Cup Series. Colleague really doesn't have a lot of opportunities to get in the victory lane. I think this is one of them. He's also a guy that has won a road course race recently at the Cup Series at Indianapolis. He was in contention for a win in 2022 when Ross Chastain bumped him and Alex Bowman out of the way. Allmendinger knows how to get around road courses. I expect him to do the same this week. Ty Gibbs, a guy with a great average finish, but it's only been 2 races. So how much does that matter? He's one of those young guys that, if, just like Connor Zilic right behind him it feels like those super young guys have adapted to road course racing at a much better rate. Probably the way they're bringing him up through all these programs. But Ty Gibbs has been good there. Connor Zilic, I want to put him higher. I want to put him lower. So I just stuck him at 9 because he's really, really good on road courses and all the other series. So it stands to reason he could be really, really good in the Cup Series. Kind of heard me. I've kind of talked about why I think he could be good on road courses. And he's a track house that knows how to build road racing cars. He has 2 teammates high up on this list. And yeah, can one of the guys with some of the most hype in NASCAR, he, out of all of the young guys in the working through the system, he might have more hype than any of them. What does he do with his first Cup Series start? Kyle Larson, it feels disrespectful to have him this low. He's been good on road courses. He's won road courses. He's always up top. It's just on road. I'm still partially waiting to see what happens on road courses, but it's so tight, I think, with these groups. And honestly, the thing that's hurting Kyle Larson to me is his finishes at COTA aren't as good as some of the people in front of him. He's arguably the most talented driver in NASCAR, and I think he can definitely win the race. Me putting him at 10 is not me saying he can't win. It's just me saying confidence level based off of history. I'm not as confident as the other ones. And I usually try and keep these lists to 10, but this is the first road course race of the year. And there's so many new guys coming in, or guys that weren't in the Cup Series last year. A lot of changes in teams where it's hard for me to kind of zero in. So I added Cindric and Blaney for reasons I earlier stated. I think both of them can get around a road course, especially Cindric. I'm a little bit worried with Ford, but I think both of these guys have also proven they can race this course. And another guy I wanted to put here was Christopher Bell. I think he's a fantastic road course racer. He's coming off of a win. He's won road courses before. Legitimate threat, especially with the Joe Gibbs car, with the Joe Gibbs behind him. But there's so much unknown, and that's part of the reason why I'm excited for this race, is so we can, as a NASCAR community, we can figure out some of those unknowns and see just how good some of these road course drivers are, what manufacturers are good, and where they stack up. I'm sure the next road course race, my driver rankings are going to look completely differently. Maybe I lean too much on history and reputation. Maybe in some ways it's probably disrespectful to not have Kyle Larson higher than he is. But the only way I can figure that out is by actually watching them race at COTA, which is kind of a unique road course compared to a lot of the other ones on the circuit. Driver power rankings. We have some pretty big movement, partially because we're going into a road course and partially because some guys are doing better than others. Ryan Blaney with 2 great finishes to start the year, going into a course that he's pretty decent at least in comparison to a lot of other drivers. I mean, Ryan Blaney 2 weeks in a row now has wrecked and rebounded to a good finish. He's shown speed at both tracks early on. He won the championship 2 years ago. Look out for Ryan Blaney. Firm contender at pretty much every track and always a contender for the championship. Arguably one of the stars of the sport right now. William Byron is self-explanatory. He's been in victory lane this year. Same thing with Christopher Bell. They both had some speed. And Christopher Bell, honestly, even it didn't look like Toyota had a chance to win. It looked like that was going to come down to the Chevys and the Fords. And then Christopher Bell comes out of nowhere. The caution comes out and he wins it, right? So Christopher Bell, look out for him on this road course. He's definitely hot. Kyle Larson feels like that was a breath of fresh air seeing him be successful on a drafting track. Who knows, if the race goes all the way to the start finish line, Kyle Larson wins. Didn't make it to the finish line. Caution came out. He finishes 3rd. But I raised him up, I think, 5 spots this week because he is, I believe, the most talented driver in NASCAR, and because he finally got the monkey off of his back, and now we're going to get it into some tracks where he probably feels a lot more confident than drafting tracks. Tyler Reddick didn't finish great. He was up front sometimes, but Toyota seemed like, other than the fact they won the race, seemed like they were missing something last week at Atlanta. Tyler Reddick Still managed a top 20 finish, which isn't great. That's not where he wants to be running, but uh, still had a great week at Daytona with a great finish. Still fine in points and going into a track that I think he is a top 5 driver in NASCAR. Getting around Denny Hamlin was able to poke his head up in there a little bit. Decent finish, rebounded a little bit from getting wrecked at Daytona. I think Denny's fine on points. I think he's a good enough road course racer where he could find himself in a good situation after this week. Cindric got wrecked, showed a lot of speed, a heck of a lot of speed for a second week in a row. Got wrecked for a second week in a row. Needs to get a little bit of a rebound this week as a road course racer. He certainly has the potential to do so. Joe Logano is only up here because he's led more laps than any other driver in NASCAR this year. Doesn't have the finishes to back it up. Keeps getting involved, although when it's partially your fault in Daytona, what does that say? He's also the defending champion, so I don't want to drop him too low this early in the season, especially when he has shown speed and led laps, even if it is at drafting tracks. We'll see what happens with Logano on a road course this week. I'm not very confident in him, and then we'll be back into the more normal NASCAR schedule, and we will see just how fast the defending champ is. Elliott, another guy that showed some speed but got involved in a wreck that wasn't his fault, finished out in the back after having to change a toe link. Not in a great point situation, but it's still early, and I think he'll be fine. Has a chance to get back on track going into the COTA this week. He even has a chance to win and make everything else a moot point. Alex Bowman, another guy that ran up front, probably should have had a little bit better finish to the day than he did. Had a decent finish, had a top 10 finish, or not a decent finish at Daytona. Really good on this track. I suspect that next week he could be even higher up on this list as one of the top contenders to win this week. Ross Chastain rebounded from that Daytona, that 40th place finish at Daytona. Ran much better this week, ran up front, got to a much better finish, and is another favorite coming into this week. Briscoe, good finish at Daytona. Never really looked like he had it at Atlanta. It looked like they slowed his car down to have handling, but then when he got to the front, his car didn't look like it was handling very well. And then kind of just stayed in the back. Didn't have a good finish this week. Still waiting to see what happens with his team's penalty. I think he is a better road course than the numbers show, so I think he could be a top 10 guy potentially at the back half of that top 10. Truex was certainly good in the 19 car at road course racing. Briscoe has some top 10 finishes at different road courses. He's competed at some different road courses with an organization that probably didn't care too much about it. So I'm definitely watching him this week to see if the change in teams and equipment can get him to a better finish on a road course. Bubba Wallace has had a great start to the year, 2 good finishes in a great point situation. He's just not a good road course racer. If he gets a decent finish this week, which not a lot of people are expecting him to have, I think he could soar into the top 10, especially after the start he had with the first 2 races. Chris Buescher, I think, is a guy still really talented, has a sneaky good average finish at COTA, top 10 average finish at if you look at the top 10 average finishes at COTA, Chris Buescher is sneakily in the top 10, maybe not a name you thought about. He's getting better at road courses. He's had some sneaky success at road courses, maybe a dark horse candidate to win this week, and he could use it with, I feel like he just keeps getting caught up in everybody else's wrecks. And for a guy with his talent and his ability, that kind of sucks. Kyle Busch in a Chevy. I've been talking about how Chevys are fast. Have been fast on road courses in the next year, and Kyle Busch has had some good finishes. He ran up front last week after getting wrecked at Daytona running up front. Had an okay race last week. I think that's going to be good for building momentum. Look for him to compete for a top 10 finish, definitely top 15 finish as well. Another young gun, this one much more controversial, Carson Hocevar. Obviously, drew a lot of controversy, has probably quite a few guys that would like to exact some revenge. Ran up front a lot last week. Like I said, he has a top 5 finish on a road course in his career. He's one of those young guys. I think that they do pretty well in road courses. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent run. I also wouldn't be surprised if he gets wrecked. Maybe somebody exacts some revenge. But yeah, obviously one of the more polarizing figures in NASCAR. You should be watching him this week, if for no other reason than that. Um, and really, let's see if he can build on a second place finish, right? I mean, Spire is trying to be better. They're trying to be a top team, and it looks like Hocevar is one of the is a pretty good bet to help spearhead that effort. Shane Van Gisbergen arguably should be higher on this list. I don't think he has a talent of a lot of guys ahead of him, but he has the finishes. I mean, he not very experienced on drafting track, just especially at the Cup Series, obviously. But I think he's finished well enough, and I think this is going to be the story of Van Gisbergen's year. How well is he going to do on the ovals, especially against people who have most likely been doing them their entire life? He's going to be a threat this week to win. He's the favorite to win this week. I have him as my favorite. Obviously, incredible road course racer. Can he get enough points in the other races to be a threat? And he certainly got a good amount of points and had a decent enough finish. Even ran up front for like top 5, top 10, ran up there last week at Atlanta. So keep an eye on Shane Van Gisbergen. Definitely could find him in victory lane. I definitely think he's getting a road course win this year. It's just a question of how much. Daniel Suarez dropped, didn't have the week he wanted in Atlanta, didn't have the week he wanted in Daytona. He's about to drop out of the top 20. They desperately need a rebound. While he has won a road course race before, he hasn't been good at COTA, but he certainly will. he certainly has teammates that know what they're doing. Maybe that helps being in the same building. I'm interested in what happens with Daniel Suarez this week. They desperately need a rebound, especially if they want to have hopes at making the playoffs. Keep an eye and see what happens with that 99 car this week, because there's already definitely a lot of people talking about the 99 and Daniel Suarez, whether it's fair or warranted or not. John Hunter Nemechek, he's not here because I think he's going to go to a top 10 finish. I can tell you that, but he's earned it. 2 top 10 finishes, one at Daytona, one at Atlanta, obviously. Those are the only 2 races NASCAR has run so far. So his team has figured out a way to be successful at the drafting tracks, which has put him in a good point spot. He just needs a solid run, and he's still there. Can Legacy Motor Club continue to find speed at 9 non-drafting tracks? And that's pretty much going to determine how John Hunter Nemechek's season goes. And then Michael McDowell, a guy who's been, maybe it was with Ford, maybe it was him, hasn't had the success speed-wise that he necessarily has had throughout his career, especially at front row at drafting tracks. But again, different manufacturer, different team. Maybe it takes time to settle in, but he has been a good road course racer. And I think Chevy is even better than Ford on road courses in next gen, as I've said multiple times. So that could help Michael McDowell. Maybe he's a guy who sneakily has a good points day. I don't know if he can win, but I think he can have a good points day. Keep an eye on Michael McDowell. That is all I have this week. Thank you guys for coming out and listening. Please give me your predictions, your questions, your comments, whatever, whatever you feel about NASCAR that I'm not talking about. Give me something in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. That's how you can help me. I really, really love seeing likes, comments, and subscribing. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with people that you know that might like NASCAR. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your week to listen. Peace.